to get to with Mina Kimes, Damian Woody, Jeff Darlington, and draft analyst Matt Miller will join us later. Let's start here with the Super Bowl champs going through another coordinator change. It's the fifth one in 3 years as the Eagles promoted Kevin Patullo to become their offensive coordinator as Kellen Moore left to become the Saints head coach. The 43-year-old Patullo has a long history with Nick Sirianni, going back to their days with the Colts in 2018. Eagles star wide receiver A.J. Brown on board. He loves this move.
I truly feel like it's a great hire. He already has been involved in almost everything. Him, Kellen, and Nick basically called the plays already. So it's a great hire, and he's already familiar with us. We have a great relationship, and he knows what we need to work on because he's been there, and he's been there for a while. And like I said, he's already been a part of all the situations and the conversations and everything. So I think it's a great hire.
Continuity is key, especially when you see this. Working with new play callers, nothing new for Jalen Hurts. Patullo will be the sixth play caller Hurts has had since entering the NFL and the 13th one since his college career began in 2016. Despite all the change, Hurts has the second most combined passing and rushing yards, touchdowns, I should say, over the last 3 seasons, only behind Josh Allen. And let's bring our crew here and start with you, Darlington. Patullo's never called plays. That's going to be a big storyline here in the conversation. Why did Nick Sirianni decide to promote within?
Well, for one, that list. I mean, that is fascinating. Like, carry the one, add two. That's literally, on average, more than one play caller per season through his college career and professional career. So, listen, they did want continuity, and they do believe that Patullo is ready for this job. Pass game specialist in the past, as well as associate head coach. And Jalen Hurts also has spoken highly of him in addition to A.J. Brown. The question, of course, you could ask is, well, why didn't they promote him last year when they instead went outside and hired Kellen Moore? Different scenarios. Last year, they wanted to revitalize the offense. They wanted a resurgence, a new identity. They got that in Kellen Moore, and they do believe that what Kellen Moore leaves behind will transfer to the future. So the team believes Patullo, first of all, is ready. There is a trust between him and Nick Sirianni that has long existed. And perhaps even more important than that, there is a trust between Patullo and the players. And that right now, for a locker room that has seen its ups and downs, is probably the most critical component to this hire.
D. Wood here. We're talking about an offense that just set a playoff record for most points in NFL history. Can they sustain the success that we saw in the postseason with this change?
Absolutely, because they had the personnel to go out there and do it. You're talking about a Philadelphia Eagles offense that had the best offensive line of football, the best running back in football, two of the best wide receivers that we have in the game of football, and a very good tight end in Dallas Goedert. And so I don't think the philosophy for the Philadelphia Eagles on offense is going to change. This is going to be a rush and attack first before anything else because they had the personnel up front to do it. Now, I know they got to get re-sign Mekhi Becton, who's a free agent, but if they can keep that unit intact, there's no reason to deviate from what was so successful in 2024 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, to Damian's point, he's being set up to succeed, right? This offense is like an all-star team, from the skill players to the offensive line, to the quarterback to the running back. Probably the best situation for any first-time offensive coordinator in the NFL right now. I would say if there's concern, it's twofold. One, we said the exact same thing a couple of years ago when they went in-house and promoted Brian Johnson. Oh, he's set up to succeed. All you have to do is just replicate what Shane Steichen did, and obviously that didn't work out. So I'm not saying it's going to happen again. My point is only that talent isn't the only determinant of success. And then for Patullo, and I think just for offensive coordinators in general, there's the players you have at the beginning of the season, and then there are the players that you work with as the season goes on. If there's injuries on the offensive line, or if A.J. Brown or Saquon Barkley or Hurts, God forbid, are out for any number of games, does he have the ability to make adjustments? Also, in games and in season, if something's not working, if there are certain pressure looks that Hurts is struggling against, can he give him answers? These are the things we're going to learn as the year goes on, things that we simply don't know right now in February.
Excellent point. The adaptability. We saw Kellen Moore do that as well this entire season. And in the postseason, coming off his two best games, that was in the NFC Championship as well as the Super Bowl. Let's stay in the NFC East now. Cowboys right guard Zach Martin informed Jerry Jones yesterday that he is retiring. The 34-year-old was an All-Pro 7 times in his fantastic career, but couldn't finish his 11th season due to an ankle injury that would later require surgery. Now, good luck replacing this guy. Zach Martin was phenomenal. I mentioned 7 first-team All-Pro selections in his career, which is tied for the most among guards all time. In that span, he had just 7 holding penalties. He also ranked top 5 in both pass block and run block win rate over the last 5 seasons. Damian, we're talking about a guy where a gold jacket will be coming down the line. It's just a matter of when. What made Martin so special?
Well, it was a lot of things. Number one, just him being a technician. You're talking about a guy you had just mentioned, 7 holding penalties. You don't achieve something like that if you're not a technician, if you're not very good at the little things in your craft. Obviously, very strong mauler type guy, can displace guys against their will, great in pass protection. And the biggest thing is, when you talk about elite players on the line of scrimmage, is when you needed the most, they always ran to Zach Martin's side. They always ran behind Zach Martin. So when the Dallas Cowboys were elite, especially on the offensive line, it was because of Zach Martin at right guard.
Yeah, and it all changed, too, in that draft, because guess what? Johnny Manziel was on the board, and Stephen Jones said, hey, Dad, hold up. We're not going to go with the quarterback. We're going to go with our offensive line and build it. And that started a great run there for the Cowboys in pushing the line forward. Now, with Zach Martin and 2-time Pro Bowler Tyler Smith, the Cowboys guards had the 4th best pass block win rate in the league in 2024, led by rookie Cooper Beebe. The Cowboys center were also great, combining for the 5th best pass block win rate. It was a different story on the outside, where the tackles ranked 27th. So the Cowboys not only have to replace Martin, but they got to get better play out of their tackles. Mina, so there's another hole to fill here for the Cowboys. And obviously the cap goes up. You got some room here, but you also have some bills to pay here. How big of a concern is this?
Yeah. Not a huge concern, actually, because, and this kind of goes back to your story with them taking Martin over Manziel. The Cowboys have, for all the criticism sent their way, pretty consistently devoted draft resources towards continuing to invest in the offensive line. And they have young players in place, some of whom, who filled in for Zach Martin when he was injured last season. You have Brock Hoffman, who got starts at guard. Cooper Beebe, who's a center, who also played guard. We'll see, I think, how they view them internally. Tyler Smith is, of course, set at left guard. And then I think the bigger question isn't really the interior, but you alluded to this, the tackles. Tyler Guyton was their first-round draft pick, had his ups and downs as a rookie. Do they feel good about going into next season with him at left tackle? I think that's going to be a key question, but I don't see the Cowboys spending a lot of money on the offensive line, maybe in terms of getting some veteran depth, because they've drafted so much there and spent so many resources on it.
Yeah, listen, we find fault with the Cowboys for a lot of things, but the one thing that the Cowboys have pretty much, prioritized, for quite some time has been the offensive line. They devote quite a bit of resources to that group. I think the biggest thing that they had to do is those young guys got to continue to step up. And if those guys, Cooper Beebe, Tyler Guyton, especially at the left tackle, if those guys continue to progress and get better, then I think this offensive line would be where they wanted to be. Because remember, when the Cowboys were at their best, it was always led by their offensive line. So they really need that group to step up next year.
Especially when you talk about this division, too, with the Commanders rising the Eagles as the Super Bowl champs right now. We got some new news coming in on NFL Live from Adam Schefter here. The Bengals releasing a defensive tackle, Sheldon Rankins, who started 7 games last season. This saves Cincinnati $9.6 million against the cap here. Let's bring back Jeff Darlington here as we continue to talk about this. This is going to be a big storyline with the Bengals. You saved nearly $10 million on this decision. The cap will go up by at least $20 million. So, Jeff, what are the Bengals' plans to get Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson paid this offseason and staying in Cincinnati?
Well, Kevin, here's the thing. Even if they don't manage to keep the 2 wide receivers that we're talking about, plus Trey, this is a scenario where they still have to scrape away at their salary cap spending. And if they really do want to keep them, they're going to have to get even more creative beyond that from a restructuring standpoint. Listen, the idea that these guys stay together is obviously a very romantic one that Joe Burrow has pushed forward as something he would like to see happen. The reality is, though, we're talking about a player in T. Higgins, who is on the cusp, the doorstep of free agency, could wind up getting the franchise tag for $26 million, but ultimately putting himself in a situation where it's either a tag and trade, a long-term extension. But the idea that other teams are also coveting Higgins does suggest that this is more complicated than just one transaction. We're going to see a flurry of these from the Bengals if they are going to be able to keep these guys.
Biggest problem, yesterday's prices are not today's, and the Bengals waited and waited and waited for the bill, and boy, that price tag's going to be a monster bill at the
A major speculation has just emerged that could change the future of the Las Vegas Raiders. The franchise, which has struggled at the quarterback position, may have its eyes on J.J. McCarthy, currently with the Minnesota Vikings. According to insider reports, a trade involving the young quarterback could be on the horizon, bringing hope to Raiders fans. But is this deal truly viable? Let's analyze all the details of this possibility and the impact this decision could have on the franchise's future. Before diving into the potential trade for McCarthy, we need to discuss the current quarterback situation for the Raiders. Aidan O'Connell, who started at times last season, still raises doubts about his potential to be the team's long-term starter. Meanwhile, the team brought in Gardner Minshew to increase competition at the position, but they still don't seem to have found their ideal solution. This reinforces the need for a bold move. The lack of a reliable quarterback has been one of the Raiders' biggest issues in recent years. The franchise has tried solutions like Jimmy Garoppolo, but the results were not as expected. Now, with a new head coach and a new general manager, the idea of investing in a young talent like McCarthy makes sense. He was a first-round pick by the Vikings and has great potential, but he isn't guaranteed to be the starter due to the presence of Sam Darnold in Minnesota. If Darnold signs an extension with the Vikings, that could pave the way for McCarthy to be traded. And you, Raiders fans, do you think a trade for J.J. McCarthy would be a good idea? Do you believe he could be the long-term solution for the franchise? Or would it be better to focus on the draft and develop a young quarterback? Leave your thoughts in the comments and join the discussion. Now, let's get to the most important information, the details of a possible trade that could bring J.J. McCarthy to Las Vegas. What's behind this potential deal, and what are the real chances of it happening? According to Hondo Carpenter of Sports Illustrated, there is strong buzz around the NFL that the Raiders would be interested in trading for J.J. McCarthy if the Vikings decide to keep Sam Darnold as their starter. League sources indicate that Las Vegas is already monitoring the situation and could act quickly if Minnesota chooses to move on from the young quarterback. If this happens, the Raiders could acquire a first-round talent without having to spend their 6th overall pick in the draft. If the Raiders manage to pull off this trade, it could completely reshape the franchise's future plans. They could use the 6th overall pick to strengthen other key positions, such as the offensive line or defense. Additionally, McCarthy could develop under a coach who believes in his potential, which could accelerate his adaptation to the NFL. And you, Raiders fans, do you think the team should go after J.J. McCarthy? Or would it be better to use the 6th overall pick in the draft to select a young and promising quarterback? Drop your comments and share your opinion. Stay tuned for more updates on the Raiders and all the latest NFL moves. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates. See you in the next video.